Displacements 1. After Half-Life 1 shipped, our level designers and artists wanted a better solution for outdoor environments, so we built the first version of our terrain system. It was based on subdivided quads. To visualize this, imagine a flat square divided into a grid, where each point on the grid can be moved up or down. Level designers could lay out multiple squares and then use a paintbrush tool to shape hills and valleys by adjusting the grid points. For rendering, we used a special blended texture, which combined two different textures. Each grid point specified how much of each texture to use, allowing smooth transitions between surfaces like sand, grass, dirt, and gravel. This type of terrain system wasn't unusual in game engines at the time, and we naively thought it would be enough for our game designers.
Washing machine puzzle.
We created the washing machine physics puzzle late in development, after playtesting indicated that players needed some downtime from the relentless pressure from the helicopter. Pacing contrasts like this can accentuate the high moments by resetting the player's emotional state and warding off exhaustion or even boredom. It was a positive sign that players reacted so strongly to all the work done to make the helicopter truly menacing, but if we didn't manage the stress of it, fatigue set in, which quickly started to feel like monotony rather than excitement. Originally, players quickly drove through this area, but because of the nice sunlight and composition of the canal here, we decided it was a good spot to pause the action and have the player spend some quiet time solving a puzzle. The puzzle itself, which was the first to use masses and pulleys, ended up giving rise to other physics navigation puzzles elsewhere in the game.
Displacements 2. Once the initial terrain system was up and running, we expected level designers to use it for outdoor spaces. Instead, they began experimenting, adding detail in unexpected places. They used the subdivided quads on the top of walls to create ruined edges, rounded off street curbs, and even attempted to make pipes. This met with varying success since the terrain system was designed for landscapes, not architectural detail. So we returned to the code mines, transforming the height-based terrain system into a fully 3D displacement system. Now, instead of only moving grid points up and down, designers could move them in any direction. This allowed them to add extra detail to all kinds of surfaces using blended textures to smooth transitions between the displacement quads and the BSP geometry. However, this required additional tech work to ensure consistent lighting between the two renderers, or those edges would have been noticeably mismatched. But with all this done, the level designers seemed satisfied, and we naively thought that this time it really would be enough. Displacements 3. With the general displacement system in hand, level designers didn't stop at adding detail to the world and returned to their original goals of building large-scale outdoor sections. This led to another round of updates to balance performance, ensuring the system could handle both fine detail and larger ground terrain. Texturing had to improve as well, especially to support complex structures like overhanging cliffs that weren't possible with the original height-based system. Designers, never one to rest on their laurels, also started using displacements to create caves and tunnels. While these additions looked great, they required even more technical adjustment. Eventually, we managed to wrangle the competing requirements of all the ways that displacements were being used, and they shipped in large sections of our game world. Looking back, displacements are a clear example of how technology and game design evolve together. It's a chicken and egg problem. We can't foresee all the ways a piece of tech will impact the game, but we also can't build the tech without knowing what it needs to accomplish. So, as is always the case, we have to build something. We start with a solid guess and see where it leads us.
El sem hinném, ha nem itt állna előttem. Dr. Gordon Freeman személyesen.
Épp időben jött, Doki. Le kell lépnünk, mielőtt a kombány megtalál minket. Épp most készülünk indulni.
Jobb, ha sietünk. Tábort kell bontanunk, és el kell tűnnünk innen.
Üdvözlet a Freemannek!
Jöjjön be, megmutatom, mivel áll szemben. Jöjjön már ide.
Gestures. Each of our characters had a library of simple animations called gestures, which we could easily layer on top of other body movements. While originally planned as a production savings to allow us to reuse animations throughout the game, we found they actually had more utility than that. Humans often repeat certain movements, and these can be markers of a specific personality. As a result, our gestures library ended up capturing the essence of each character, helping to unify our animation team's understanding of who those characters were. This made it much easier for our animators to share any one character's workload among themselves, which production often required.
Ezzel meg is oldánk. Ez a fegyver pont egy vadászkopterről való. Tudni átvinni a tűzharcokba. Intézze el azt a koptert, majd induljon Eli rejtek helyéhez.
A Freeman elfogadja ezt a fegyvert, vagy nagy szenvedésnek néz elébe.
Minden jót, Dr. Freeman.
A szabadságért!
Adjon nekik, Doki!
Airboat change-up. We heard from the playtesters that they wanted more varied gameplay from the airboat. Up until this point of the game, the player had no real way to fight back against the helicopter and other enemies, so it felt right to introduce a new weapon and in turn deliver a pacing change and set the stage for what would come next. In the subsequent areas, we added target practice to acquaint people with their new weapon. Extra physics force on the airgun projectiles meant targets would get sent flying and make it feel way more powerful than anything in the player's loadout. Even then, when it came to playtesting combat against the helicopter, a lot of testers still thought it was invincible and hadn't noticed our efforts to illustrate that it was taking damage from the combine-mounted guns earlier. To get over this, we did the most obvious thing. We put the helicopter directly outside the tunnel in which you get the gun and make it extremely clear that you can and should shoot it. And it worked.